In online discourse, it's not all too uncommon to hear the validity of video games as an art form brought up. For many other types of media, such as movies, music, and television, there's almost no question about it. These forms of media are without a doubt art forms, and many people will agree that it takes an artist to create them. However, when video games are brought up, many are more apprehensive to award it the same artistic status. To many, video games are a form of mindless entertainment. It's a way to sit down for a few hours and turn your brain off. And for many, it's hard to find much artistic or creative value in something which to them is designed not to be thought much about. For a long time, this was my approach to games as well. They were for me, and I would assume a lot of other people, a way of escapism. They were a way for me to experience worlds and stories that I would have never dreamed of otherwise. And while I appreciated the purpose of games in my life, there was never a moment where I stopped to appreciate just how much creativity had gone into creating these games that I loved. In many ways, I think nostalgia is one of the biggest driving forces in my life, primarily because it has not only driven me to return to pieces of media which helped shape me, but also look at the artistic values of those pieces of media. And the biggest thing that I've noticed when revisiting games from my formative years is just how much culture is contained within each of these games. I feel that within many of these games is a time capsule containing the values, feelings, and attitudes of the times that they were made in. It's always somewhat overwhelming going back to a game from this era, especially games which wholeheartedly embraced the fact that they were a product of their time with open arms. Personally, I am fascinated with the cultural enigma that was the late 2000s and early 2010s. Being the years that I remember most fondly, most of the games that I come back to regularly are from this era. And to me, it can kind of feel like culture shock returning to a time which has come and gone. For this video, I'm going to mainly focus on games from when I was a kid, but that doesn't mean that other games don't hold on to cultural values from their time, because personally I think that all games do that, at least to some degree. The games that I'm going to talk about in this video are the games that are deeply important to me, and the ones that I believe perfectly encapsulate the time in which they were made. And I think one of the biggest examples of games which are purely products of an era, products which served a specific use case which no longer exists anymore, and which capture the essence of the era that they were made in, are Flash games. See, the existence of Flash games is entirely circumstantial. These are games which exist almost entirely to kill time and to scratch the itch of boredom in a bite-sized form factor.
Probably the earliest Flash game I remember playing was Electric Man 2.
Papa's Pancakeria.
Monster Evolution.
Insane Arranger.
I think it was most likely Fire Bloom Water Girl.
Whenever I played them, Flash games were almost always some form of distraction. I either played them in class when I was avoiding schoolwork or at home when I was avoiding homework. To me, Flash games felt like a method of avoidance, something I played when I shouldn't be playing anything at all.
I usually played it at like school and stuff.
On my family's little MacBook laptop, because that was really the only place I could since I was so little.
I was probably bored in this typing class I had in school and just looking for games after either finishing my work or possibly without actually doing any work.
You know, as I grew older, I would start playing them at school all the time.
Flash games always had eye-catching concepts and artwork. They almost always had really distinct soundtracks. A lot of the time, if you see or hear a Flash game, it's pretty easy to guess that it is a Flash game.
But it was like a puzzle game where you would try to fit the Hot Wheels cars into like the correct color-coded spot.
It was like this fighting game, and you would just fight like a horde of enemies at a time, and you had like special abilities and combos you could do.
A simple 2-player puzzle game.
It was this really strange black on orange clip art game where you played as this big Godzilla-type monster and just blindly walked around eating stick figures.
But Flash games went a step beyond eye-catching. What earworms are to music, Flash games are to video games. These games really easily got stuck in your head, and many of the memories I have with Flash games I don't think will ever leave me even if I wanted them to.
It like kickstarted my addiction to Flash games, frankly. Like as a kid, my main source of entertainment was just playing Flash games.
I remember trying to fit ourselves onto the same keyboard in the evening and trying to be funly uncooperative with each other.
I remember I found this glitch where like if you just like went into a match or whatever and like instantly backed out, you would just get the credit for winning and then continue moving on in the game. You could just beat it in like literally like 30 seconds.
I think I liked this game the most because like I would just give up and start making my own fucking orders. I was never allowed to make pancakes, so I just wanted to make pancakes. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to go on my little laptop and make pancakes. Like it fulfilled little me.
I don't know why, but it was always kind of one of my favorites, even though it wasn't particularly fun as a game. I think it was just because it was weird.
In effect, Flash games are the video game world's equivalent to junk food. These games aren't meant to be especially amazing, they didn't have the best graphics or the best sound or the best gameplay, but there was always something alluring to Flash games, which I think has yet to be replicated. In my childhood, I spent countless hours trying to complete rudimentary puzzle games like Red Remover, Orange Alert, and Cover Orange, spending upwards of an hour on a solution which, once found, seemed incredibly simple. Then, when I was a bit older, I got really into Club Penguin's card minigame, trying to get one of those elemental robes and martial arts emotes. And later, when I got the flu and was home for 2 weeks, I probably spent more time playing Pokemon Tower Defense than I did sleeping. And when I was a freshman in high school, I spent almost every moment of my, in hindsight, insane amount of free time playing Tetris Friends, trying to get as good as the experts I would see on YouTube. Personally, as a young kid without much access to games and pretty much free reign on a computer, Flash games allowed me to try games I would never think to play otherwise, and experience stories and challenges that were completely foreign to me. And since Flash games were such a big part of my life over the years, when I come back to them, it's clear just how dated they have become, and also how much the landscape of the internet in general has changed. Remember when you could go on YouTube and type in how to get Mew in Pokemon Platinum or something similar and find a bunch of ridiculous fake methods that back then felt so plausible? Remember when any question online would bring you to a forum about said topic, when you could find a passionate community online for just about anything? Remember when the internet felt like a place without rules, where people were left to their own devices? Eventually, when Flash games would run out of steam as a genre and lose popularity, IO games would take its place on the throne. And for many people, these games simply became an afterthought. The purpose that Flash games once served was no longer needed, and eventually the inevitable end of Flash as a whole was announced, and every Flash game on the internet went offline. When I come back to Flash games, I'm reminded of this forgotten time in internet history. I'm reminded that even though there are more people online than ever before, it's so easy to feel alone on the internet. These shared experiences like Flash games have been increasingly few and far between, and that sense of community found online has almost completely petered out.
If you're looking for a gift this holiday season, look no further than the Graycon Everyday G35 Noise Compromising Earbuds. With ultra enhanced bass and flabbergasting sound quality, you can listen to your favorite songs like never before. There's no wonder celebrities like Toby Turner and Michael Richards are obsessed with them.
Oh, I guess you got me there. You're absolutely right.
Right now, text Glimsy1 to 75555 to get your own discount code for 2.5% off your very own pair of Graycons. But hurry, because this offer won't be sticking around for long.
One of the watershed days in financial markets history.
It was a manic Monday in the financial markets. The Dow tumbled more than 500 points after two pillars of the street tumbled over the weekend.
On Christmas morning of 2011, I was an 8-year-old kid sitting on the cold hardwood floors opening presents. In a classic Christmas movie cliche, the last gift under the tree was the most important one. I can't really tell you what else I may or may not have been given that year, but what I do remember is peeling off the layers of wrapping paper on the box and seeing the PlayStation logo. Earlier in 2011, the house that my mom and I had been living in was broken into multiple times, the last time of which resulted in my childhood Wii being stolen while I was at school. The arrival of this PS3 to me meant that the hobby that had been escaping me for the better part of a year had fallen back into my lap. And with this system, a game was included, a game which would remain important to me for the rest of my life. Little Big Planet is a perfect example of a simple concept executed flawlessly. It's a game that is absolutely brimming with creativity from top to bottom. It feels like the creators of this game were driven by passion first and foremost.
Even if it only sells 10 copies, I don't really care, because I enjoy playing it, and it's something that I'm really proud of.
The game just emanates this feeling of childlike wonder and curiosity, to the point where it's hard to play this game and not have fun. One area where this game shines in particular is the soundtrack. Little Big Planet's OST is probably my favorite game soundtrack ever, primarily because the songs used in Little Big Planet don't sound at all like video game music, and that's because they aren't. This game features a wide array of musical talent, from many different genres and eras of music. It almost feels like the crew at Media Molecule were just picking songs that they genuinely liked and licensing them for the game. All of these songs existed before Little Big Planet, and they exist outside of it, but somehow they all match this game's theming and atmosphere perfectly. The reason I bring this game, and specifically its soundtrack, up is because I think that the same reasons which make this game so good are the same reasons which significantly date the game. This game embodies a time which has come and gone. A time that felt a lot more optimistic, that felt carefree, at least for those who played it at a similar age that I did. And everything about this game embodies those feelings. The different areas you travel to tiptoe across the line between realistic and fantastical. They manage to craft levels that cause your eyes to wander across every part of the screen. Levels which make you want to study them and notice all the little details that the developers added to them in order to make them feel more special. And the soundtrack doesn't just strengthen this immersion, it is integral to the game and the world that it creates. The world of Little Big Planet is vast. It encompasses many different themes and experiences. For me, more than any other piece of media, the game embodies the late 2000s. When I think of the year 2008, the first thing that comes to mind is this game, and likewise, when I see gameplay from this game or I hear a song used in it, I can't help but remember the experiences I had with this game, the feelings I felt when I played it for the first time, and the memories that I made back when the game first came out. It makes me remember the times I would wake up before the sun rose in order to play the game on weekends, the countless hours I spent in the living room with my dark blue controller on my lap, playing the game online with people whose names I never learned. These experiences are pretty hard to come by for me nowadays. That childlike wonder is pretty unheard of. And after playing games for this many years, there comes a point where games don't really surprise you as much as they used to. But whenever I feel disillusioned with games, Little Big Planet will always be there, and each time I've revisited it, without fail, that feeling comes back. It was around this time of year, about 10 years ago at this point, that I first heard the name Minecraft. 10 years ago, I would have been in the 3rd grade. I had transferred to a new elementary school, and I so desperately wanted to fit in with other people. So when I heard other kids on the playground talking about Minecraft, I decided that I needed to try it. That afternoon, when I got home, I pestered my dad into buying the game on our dinosaur of a family laptop, and once I started to play the game, time started to become imperceivable. Before I knew it, I had been playing for hours, and when I came back from a bathroom break, I found my dad sitting at the computer, just as engrossed in the game as I had just been. Minecraft, at least back in 2011, had a pretty high learning curve. There was so much to learn about the game, but it never really felt that boring or tedious to do so. The game throws you into the deep end. It expects you to figure out everything on your own. Now, it's not like this game is incredibly complex, there's just a lot of things to figure out. Those first few in-game days where you still have absolutely no idea what you're doing can be pretty frustrating, but most people who jump into this game with no prior knowledge or experience never forget those first few hours where they were completely lost. Me personally, I played this game virtually non-stop for years. At first it was just me and my dad who would play the game, as we were both fans. We'd build big buildings and bases on a shared world that we both played on, and still play on to this day. But then I started playing the game with my friends from school. My friends and I would hop on a Skype call and just play for hours, either making a world together, messing around with a mod, or just dicking around on random servers. For several years, Minecraft was the vehicle in which my friends and I would spend time together, but I'm pretty sure you probably all know the end of this story. Like many other people, I eventually stopped playing the game. It wasn't because I disliked the community or thought that the game was somehow tainted by the reputation it had earned online. Personally, I was just burnt out. I loved this game, I really did, but you can only do something you love for so long before it gets dull. And at some point I had to come to terms with the fact that I would never love this game as much as I used to. Around the time I stopped playing the game was around the time the game was acquired by Microsoft, which is when the game started to go in a bit of a different direction. I personally love a lot of the changes that Microsoft have added, but I can't deny that the game is not the same as it was. The fondest memories I have of Minecraft are when I had no direction of what to do or where to go. The seemingly empty world with no one but you in it, the feeling of drifting too far from your base and having no idea where to even begin searching, the rudimentary graphics and the jankiness of the game. These are the experiences which made me love this game. Don't get me wrong, I love the fact that people have figured out everything there is to this game, but part of the fun to me was not knowing in the first place. Nowadays, when I come back to Minecraft, specifically older versions I played when I was younger, I can relive some of these memories. Traveling back to the world that I made with my dad, walking through the town we made or all the structures that were built, or starting up a world on a beta version and seeing how much the game has changed. How far it has come. I still love this game, and I think I've put more hours into it than any other game. But that magic feeling Minecraft used to embody isn't there anymore, and it hasn't been for years. Out of all the types of media which I enjoy, video games have had the longest lasting impact on me. Games can affect you in a way that a lot of other types of media can't. The careful and meticulous ways which games are crafted allow them to become a part of you. The techniques that the developers use to tinker with an experience until it becomes unforgettable only add to this medium's uniqueness. There are moments that I have with all the games in this video which I will cherish forever. They have become landmarks in my life, ways for me to measure who I was when I first played them and who I am now. And even though to me it feels like the era which created these games has long passed, I always have these games to fall back on, and I will always have the experiences which make these games special to me.